Good morning, students. Yesterday, we started this lesson, The Adventure of Gulliver. What happened till now with Gulliver? I explained you how he got the problems and how he was lying on the ground without moving his any body parts, and the tiny persons were climbing and moving here and there from the feet and from the arms near to the face. Like this way, he was um, got so many troubles with these tiny peoples, and afterwards they started attacking him by the arrows, and he was just hurting himself a lot. Then he decided not to afraid, but he could have did something good for himself, but he thought that if he lie quiet till that night, then he can actually move his hand and free his body parts so that he can raise an important looking for a long speech. That person was doing actions and showing him that he would not harm anyone. Then he told, okay, no problem, but I am hungry. Please give me something so that I can eat. Till here we completed. Now Gulliver eats a giant meal. Now you see in this picture also you find in the cards, huh? Bread loaves are there. Bread loaves are there. Loaves I explained to you. Huh? At once 100 men, at least 100 Lilliput men were climbing on his body and marching. And marched means moving from feet to the mouth and carrying a food also. You see in this picture how they are throwing the loaves of bread. Okay, and how many tiny persons were on his body? Minimum 100. He could have actually took out many of them and thrown them out, but he did not do. Some were doing dance, and someone were walking, someone were running here and there. So the bread was a small as like a bullets. Now you see these are the bullets, means the size of the bread was like a bullets. So he had 2 or 3 loaves at a time, means at a time in his mouth can anyone put 2 3, because the size of those loaves were very small. But what happened na? He ate 2 3 loaves at a time, and cries of surprise from the Lilliputans. He actually started crying so loudly. So I should eat so quickly and so much. The Lilliput were no longer afraid of me. They danced upon my body and ran to and fro. I could have caught at least 40 of them with my hands and throw them down. But I remembered my promise to remain quiet. Indeed, I was surprised at their bravery, for I must have seemed the greatest giant in the world. Now you see here Gulliver says he would actually took out many of them and thrown them out. But afterwards he remembered his promise, that what he promised to the Lilliputans, that he is not going to harm any one of them. So he kept silent and was putting his interest in eating those bread loaves. Bread loaves were of very small in size. And how they were doing? They were just throwing from there, that side, and they were throwing into his mouth. And he was actually, Gulliver was sometimes, he was surprised that I should actually give them the bravery award that such a great giant means in this world they all are surviving. It's really a surprise for him. Later, I was taken to the city where the king lived. A great cart was made by joining many carts. 900 men worked for 3 hours to put me onto the cart, which was drawn by 1500 of the king's finest horses. The city was just half a mile away, but the journey took almost a full day. What happened then? Then actually these Lilliputians, how many Lilliputians gathered together? 900. 900 Lilliputians actually they got one big cart, big cart to just put this Gulliver on that cart, and they took that cart to the king, okay, where king used to live in the city. And the distance between where he was lying on the ground till there to the king, to the city where king lived, was really you can say a half mile. Half mile, okay, means it is very near. If suppose normal इंसान normal person फटाफट पहुंच सकता है, but here they took almost a day to carry that cart to there. And that too, how many Lilliputs were working? 900 to just pull that cart. And so many fine means strong, healthy horses of those kings, those horses were pulling that cart. Means you can observe that how small they are and their work also. 900 means it's not a joke, and all were wearing the same soldier uniform, and they actually took him to the city where king lived. And cord cord actually made by joining so many cards. For them, this Gulliver was big in size, and they all were tiny persons. Okay? Gulliver new home. Now, this is he actually informs about his new home. The king came out to meet me. He came near and looked at me, but it was not thought safe for him to climb up on me. What happened as he carried to the city where king lived? So when he met the king came, he actually came out and he met him, and he came near to Gulliver. Okay, but he actually did not thought himself safe that he can climb on me. He was totally restless, and he was finding that this king should not climb upon me. At the place where the cart stopped, there was an old church. It was the largest building in the whole country. For certain reasons, it had not been used as a church for many years. It had now been made ready for me to use as my house. The great door on the north was 4 feet high and 2 feet wide. So I would go into it by going down on my hand. One of my feet was set in a great ring on the end of many strong strings, so that I could not get away, but could only walk some distance outside my door. The country outside looked like a garden. Okay, now what happened here? When he actually reached near the king, so king came near to him, but he was afraid that the king should not climb upon him. Then after some time, at a place there where the cart was stopped, and it was a very old old church, okay, where that cart was stopped, and that building was very big in size, very big, but and it was an old church. So mostly you know that churches are very big in size, but for certain reasons, na? For certain reasons, actually, the church was not used for many years, and now this became a new house for him to stay. For whom? For Gulliver. And the main door from where he should get inside that church, and it was only a 4 feet, and wide means chauda, only of 2 feet. So he actually has to crawl. How the small babies will crawl, he even has to crawl with his hand and go inside. But what happened? Na? Two or the three strings of which he was tied with the tiny persons, जो उसको हाथों पे पैरों पे सब वो बांध दिया गया था, उसमें उसके strings में hands फंस गए. So what he did, his actually feet was also set in that ring and could not get inside and could not come outside. So at some distance he could walk only near to that door, and the country means whole country was looking like a garden, means it was very beautiful. After some days, the king and his people were convinced that I would not harm them. So, after I agreed to keep certain orders of the king, I was allowed to move around. What happened? As many of days he passed inside the church, so then he promised to king that he is not going to give any harm to them, because they were thinking this is the giant person, maybe he harms us, as they all are the lilliputs. So they actually took a promise with the Gulliver that he will not harm them. So then afterwards the king agreed and passed some orders that he actually can get a permission to move around, means to move here and there. Like this way he got the permission from the king. Now Gulliver visits the city and the queen. Now you see in this, Gulliver now started moving here and there. As soon as I was set free, I asked if I might see the city. The king was pleased to let me to do this. Orders were given to all the people to remain in their houses. I then stepped over the wall and went very carefully along the two largest streets. All the windows were full of faces looking out at me, and large numbers of people were standing on the tops of the houses. The king's house was just at a place where two great streets met. There was a beautiful garden on all sides of it. Lying down in the garden, I put my eye to the windows. The rooms inside were very beautiful. In one room, I saw the queen and some of the young princes. They were greatly pleased by my visit. Now you see in this, as he got a permission that he can move around the city, but he actually now was completely free, and he started moving. But king ordered all the persons, means all the city lilliputs, to be inside their houses. No one will come outside when Gulliver is taking round in that city. Orders were strictly has to follow by all, not only the Gulliver but also the Lilliputians. Then he stepped out on some wall and went very carefully, because he has to obey the rules and regulations which the king already informed him to follow. Okay, and he was finding all the tiny persons looking him from their windows only. they did not come outside, and large number of peoples were standing on the tops of the houses also. You see in this picture also, from the windows and tops of the houses, you will find so many persons watching Gulliver, and the king's house was just near to that place where he was taking a round, and it was really a very beautiful garden from all the sides. It's looked very beautifully, and he lay down in the garden and put his eye to that windows where all the Lilliputs were watching him. All the rooms inside were looking very beautiful because they followed the neatness and cleanliness. And in one room he saw the queen and some young princess also. And in one room he saw the queen. Okay, one room, queen and some princess also, and they were very greatly means pleased to his visit. And this was the story of a Gulliver, his adventure. Now I will explain you in Hindi also. Students, as yesterday we finished till here, as he got some bread loops for eating, and the Lilliputs were dancing and running, and sometimes they were shooting with him from the bows and arrows. They were torturing him, but afterwards he gave them the promise that he is not going to harm anyone. Okay? कल जैसे कि हमने ये स्टोरी यहाँ तक किया था कि उसने कहा था कि मुझे बहुत भूख लगी है, गुल्लीवर ने, कि मुझे थोड़ा सा खाना दे दो, तो वो जो ब्रेड के स्लाइसेस थे ना, वो ऐसे लग रहे थे कि जैसे कि एक बंदूक की गोली के जैसे छोटे छोटे एकदम थे, और उसके मुंह में इकट्ठे ऐसे 3-3 जा सकते, इतने छोटे थे, और वो खाने लगा। दूर से ही ये लोग फेंक रहे थे। मिनिमम उसकी बॉडी के ऊपर में 100 लिलीपुट दौड़ रहे थे, भाग रहे थे, डांस कर रहे थे। आप पिक्चर में भी देख सकते हो कि कैसे उसके ऊपर में टॉर्चर किया जा रहा है। जैसे कि बाद में उसने बताया कि मैं तुम लोगों को कोई भी तकलीफ नहीं दूंगा, तुम मेरे ऊपर विश्वास करो। फिर उसके बाद में इसको ये बोला गया कि हम तुमको अभी किंग के पास लेके जाना है। तो किंग के पास लेके जाएंगे, इसको कैसे लेके जाएंगे, क्योंकि ये तो बहुत बड़ा साइज में है, तो इसके लिए 900 लिलीपुट लेके आए, और बहुत सारी जो काट है ना, जैसे कि जिसके ऊपर में ये ब्रेड के लूज पड़े, काट मीन्स ये जिसके ऊपर लकड़ी का बेस रहता है और व्हील्स लगे रहते हैं, वो काट रहता है। वो काट बहुत सारे कार्ड्स को जॉइंट करके गुलिवर के लिए लाया गया था, और इसको जो किंग के अच्छे अच्छे स्ट्रॉन्ग हॉर्सेस थे, हेल्दी, वो हॉर्सेस बुलाए गए, और कम से कम 900 लिलीपुट्स वो कार्ड्स को खींचकर लेके जा रहे थे। हालांकि किंगडम जो था वो सिर्फ एक आधा किलोमीटर से भी कम दूरी पे था, बट इनको पूरा दिन लग गया वहां तक, किंगडम के पास जाने तक, क्योंकि ये लोग हैं बहुत छोटे, और ये था साइज में बहुत ही चौड़ा और लंबा, इसलिए इनको इतने सारे वहां पर लिलीपुट्स लग गए, जिसको काट को खींच के लेके जाने के लिए। और कम से कम 1500 हॉर्सेस थे किंग के, एकदम से स्ट्रांग और हेल्दी। 900 पर्सन्स थे जो काम कर रहे, खींच रहे थे, और 1500 हॉर्सेस थे। सिटी बिल्कुल एकदम थोड़ी सी डिस्टेंस पे था, लेकिन इनको पूरा दिन लग गया वहां तक पहुंचने के लिए। अब गुलिवर को जैसे ही वहां पर लेके गए, तो किंग बाहर आए और उनको देखा, लेकिन इनको यही था कि गुलिवर को यही था कि किंग मेरे ऊपर मत चढ़े, क्योंकि ऑलरेडी उसको बहुत तकलीफ हो रही थी, उसको बहुत पेन हो रहा था, क्योंकि ये लोग उसके ऊपर जब नाच रहे कूद रहे थे। तो फिर कुछ वहां पर वो काट को रोक दिया गया। जहां पर उससे रोका गया वो एक बहुत ही बड़ा पुराना चर्च है। कुछ रीजंस के कारण वो बिल्डिंग में ना कोई भी नहीं जाता है, और वो कंट्री की सबसे बड़ी बिल्डिंग है, उस कंट्री की सबसे बड़ी बिल्डिंग है। लेकिन कुछ कारणों के कारण वो बिल्डिंग बंद थी, जो अब इसकी रहने के लिए वो जगह बना दी गई। लेकिन उसका जो मेन डोर था, जहां से गुलिवर को अंदर एंट्री करना था, वो सिर्फ 4 फीट का ही था, और चौड़ा जो था सिर्फ 2 फीट का था। तो इसीलिए वो अंदर नहीं जा पा रहा था। तो उसने अपनी हाथों से ऐसे रिंग के अंदर जाने की कोशिश की, लेकिन बीच बीच में जो उसको बांध दिया गया था रस्सियों से, वो रस्सी कहीं ना कहीं उसके पैरों में अटक रही थी, उसको परेशान कर रही थी। कैसे तैसे वो वहां से अंदर नहीं जा पा रहा था। बट थोड़ी सी देरी में वो इधर उधर होकर एडजस्ट किया। वहां से देख रहा था कि सिटी का जो गार्डन है ना, वो बहुत ही अच्छा, सुंदर और ब्यूटीफुल लग रहा था, बहुत अच्छा लग रहा था उसको। थोड़े दिन उसने उस बिल्डिंग के अंदर में बिताने के बाद में किंग से परमिशन लिया कि क्या मैं यहाँ पर थोड़ा सा घूम सकता हूँ। तो किंग ने उसे कहा कि आप घूम सकते हो, लेकिन आप हमें कुछ भी तकलीफ नहीं दोगे। ये चीज अगर आप प्रॉमिस करते हो तभी हम आपको छोड़ेंगे, और तभी हम आपको घूमने की परमिशन देंगे। तो इसने भी प्रॉमिस एक्सेप्ट किया, और गुलिवर ने वहां से निकलकर सिटी का चक्कर मारना शुरू किया। बट जब किंग ने उसको अलाउ किया, तो अपने जो उसके लिलीपुट लोग थे उन लोगों को बताया कि वो अपने घरों के बाहर से नहीं निकलेंगे। जब गुलिवर विजिट करेगा तब वो लोग अपने घर के अंदर रहेंगे, और देखना है तो उसे विंडोज से देख सकते हैं। तो जैसे ही गुलिवर एक दीवार के ऊपर चढ़ने लगा और देखने लगा, तो सब जन उसको विंडोज से देखने लगे। कई जन अपने बिल्डिंग्स के टॉप फ्लोर से भी देखने लगे, और कई जन जो है उसे विंडो से देख रहे थे। जब ये देख रहा था गुलिवर उन सबको, तो उनके अंदर से घर भी ना बहुत ही अच्छे थे, बहुत नीट एंड क्लीन। चारों तरफ जो गार्डन था बहुत ही ब्यूटीफुल था। किंग किंग का भी जो घर था वहां से बहुत ही पास में था। जैसे कि उसने देखा कि इतना ब्यूटीफुल गार्डन है चारों तरफ से, तो वो वहां पर ऐसा अपना नील डाउन करके गार्डन में बैठा और विंडोज की तरफ देख रहा था। तो सब लोग उसको बहुत अच्छे से देख रहे थे। इतने में गुलिवर ने वहां की क्वीन को भी देखा, और बहुत सारे यंग प्रिंसेस जो एकदम प्रिंसेस थे ब्यूटीफुल्ली, और क्वीन भी थी, वो उनको देखते ही रह गया कि ये मेरा ग्रेट प्लेजर है कि आज मैं क्वीन को और इतने ब्यूटीफुल प्रिंसेस को देख पा रहा हूँ, और बहुत एंजॉय कर रहा था। आप लोग ये देख सकते हो इमेज में भी कि कैसा गुलिवर, उसकी फेस पे भी स्माइल दिख रही है कि कितना ब्यूटीफुल उसको विजिटर लगा उस पूरे सिटी का। प्लस लोग उसको वहां से ही विंडोज से देख रहे हैं, बहुत अच्छा लग रहा है। और इसने अपने आप को ग्रेट फील समझा कि मैंने आज क्वीन को भी देखा है, क्वीन को भी देखा, और उसके साथ में कई यंग प्रिंसेस को। ऐसा गुलिवर का ये स्टोरी था जो कि उन्होंने अपने इस लेसन में बताया है। तो एंड आई होप कि आप लोगों को ये बिल्कुल समझ में आ गया होगा। ये एक ऐसा गुलिवर का एक एडवेंचर बताया गया। उन्होंने जो अपनी इस स्टोरी के बारे में बताया, वैसे तो उन्होंने बहुत सारे अपने जर्नीज के बारे में लिखा है, बहुत सारी। हम अगर उनकी बुक पढ़ेंगे, जो हमने कल मैंने बताया था आपको, जोनाथन स्विफ्ट जो राइटर हैं, उन्होंने बहुत सारी गुलिवर की जर्नीज के बारे में लिखा है, बट उनके हिसाब से उनको ये अच्छी लगी थी, इसीलिए ये हमारे साथ एक्सपीरियंस उनका ये एडवेंचर का शेयर किया गया, और ये एक ट्रू रियल लाइफ पे बेस्ड है, ट्रू है ये. Okay, so students, I hope that you understood this lesson, and today I'll send you the exercises and question answers of this lesson. Thank you all of you. Have a nice day.